You know what I experienced just now with this very, very simple exercise? I internally slowed down.
Yeah. I did too. I'm
Right?
glad we did it actually.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
It's like I know that the show is going to go very quickly because it always does. But somehow right now I have this feeling that the time is just here
Yes.
to sustain us.
Yes.
So it's like there's no lack of time, but there is
Yes.
as much time as exactly as we need
Yes.
and
Yes.
want.
One of my colleagues, Mink Sporen, says there's all the time we have in the time, all the time we need in the time we have.
Interesting.
I love that. It's that sense of spaciousness in the now.
Spaciousness. Because I think that this is actually in my opinion, a major cause of today's stress.
Yes.
Because we are overwhelmed with things to do and not having enough time to do them. So I think just allowing that time to support us
Exactly.
instead of separating us from what we need to do.
Well, one of the definitions of overwhelm that helps me is trying to do more than you can do in the time that you have. So when you pause, you can really think about what's the most important thing to do right now.
And what you can just not do.
Yeah, yeah, because really having a not to-do list is almost as important as having a to-do list.
Oh my God, this is, I shouldn't say, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
I challenge all of the people who are listening and watching our show right now to create a not to-do list. It's wonderful. I love it.
Yeah.
So this is your coaching assignment.
Yeah. And when you start to put on a not to-do list, you can see what you can delegate. You can see where you're perhaps wasting time. You know, like complaining would be something to put on the not to-do list.
Unless you really enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, my question would be,
how
does
long?
it get you where you want to go?
Right.
You know, or have you be the person you want to be? Yeah. So
I was just kidding.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah, but you're right, because some people may take it seriously.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what we were saying before is also important, I find. We were saying something before.
Before the show?
No, not
No.
before the
Oh.
show. But just a second ago, you were saying this exercise, I mean, not
Yes.
to-do list, and then something else that you were saying before, not to-do list. It was interesting, and it kind of slipped.
Slip through the cracks.
But I
there?
was saying, okay, I have to make shuffled.
Oh, sure. Especially this time last year, going into the winter time, the fear was palpable. People were really shaken to the core of themselves because their businesses were perhaps affected, their investments, the value of their property, and if they weren't directly affected, their neighbors and family members were. So, yeah, there was a sort of a collective holding of the breath there for a while. I think it was really difficult, and for sensitive people like ourselves, I really could feel it in my body how much fear my clients were carrying. And I think we've relaxed a little more and kind of taken a little deep breath, and it's caused people to focus on what's really important to them. And I think it's an opportunity for us to really break the trance of scarcity that we've been living in. Because
So I'm sorry, so do you think that we're over the hump of that darkness of fear, and now we're in a transition of, okay, now we're into more of a being there?
Well, I think we're adjusting.
We
have
are
to adjust
adjusting.
because to live in that
We are in
state
the
of
process of adjusting.
We're in the process of adjusting. I don't think we're all the way through it. I don't think we're all the way through this transition.
Right.
But I don't think we could hold our collective breath forever. So we had to learn to.
We could try, but it's not
to-
like you said before about complaining, you know.
Right, yeah.
We
You could try, but it doesn't really work that well. So we had to kind of shift our attention a little bit and really check in our assumptions. So for example, I was working with a business owner who, realized that more isn't necessarily better. And that having a business that made a little less money than before wasn't necessarily the end of the world. We had this idea that we have to, have continuous improvement or more. Well, now we, question that assumption. Is that a true assumption?
Yeah.
I think we're in a process of testing a lot of assumptions. Is scarcity a fact? You might know the work of Byron Katie. She has this great little video about, if you ask people if having more money would make them feel happy, most people would say yes. And then she says, well, is that true? And what happens if you relax into right now and notice all the abundance that you have presently, would more change your experience of right now?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But because we've bought into this idea that more is better, we're actually like holding it in our body like we can't enjoy now because we're still trying to get more. And when you just kind of let that go for a little bit, I mean, I have more clothes than I can wear, more books than I can read, more friends than I can spend time with, more food in my fridge than I could eat. You know, like I'm living in an amazingly opulent life, and my business is not making as much as it did in previous years. So is it true that more was necessary? I'm questioning that myself. And I'm finding that I can have a really opulent experience of life the more I'm present to all the beauty and the love and the prosperity that's here right now.
You know, I wonder how many of you, including coaches, actually have a coach. And the reason I say that is because I'm kind of prompted by this conversation to say that my own coach, since, you know, the nature of coaching is to really focus on your plans and on your future. My own coach always says to me, you know, this is all great, but why is everything in the future tense? What about now? How do you feel right now? What do you have right now? You know, it's so important to really take it in, because only then you can even see where the lack may be.
Right.
Because if you're constantly running to catch something, you don't even know if you actually want it or need it.
Right, right. Well, part of the reason our profession emerged was that we are living in a time of tremendous choice. Peter Drucker says when they look back at this time in history, you know, from a long-range view, the big change that happened around now is not going to be the internet. It's going to be the tremendous amount of choices that human beings had for the first time in history, where we don't have to work just for survival, where we have choices in terms of where we'll live, who we'll live with, how we'll worship, what kinds of careers we'll have, what kind of learning we want to have, and that our profession kind of was an intuitive response to that tremendous amount of choice and that split between the head and the heart, between the part of us that's aching for meaning and the part of us that has really done well with technology and the means of production. And so these kind of major trends that are overarching have brought us to this point. And I love what your coach is saying, you know, really bringing you to now and what's needed here.
Yes.
Yeah. Instead of running all the time.
Yeah. I think it boils down back to what is your value? Because the conversation that you're opening up right now, you know, that dilemma between head and your heart, we're really talking about the value system.
Yes.
So what are you going to respect and honor more? Your intelligence, your intelligence. But, I shouldn't say intelligence because intelligence probably includes your heart.
Yes.
But your brain producing a solution, or your heart telling you, okay, something is missing, or your heart is telling you, yeah, this is right on, I really want this. So what are you going to use as a barometer?
Yeah, and that's what
for
we
choice.
do as coaches. We hold people's hand while they sort out what's really true for them.
For them.
Not necessarily what they've been programmed to think is true, what their parents thought was true, or their church, or their school, or their government, but what's really important for them. And we help them sort that out.